Hi everyone, I'm Esther. In this video, I will introduce the future perfect tense. This tense is used to express an action in the future that will happen by a specific time in the future. This tense can be a little difficult to understand, but don't worry, I will guide you through it. So keep watching. The future perfect tense is used to express an action in the future that will happen by a specific time in the future. Let's look at some examples. The first sentence says, the snow will have stopped by April. We start with the subject, in this case, the snow. Then we follow with will have and the past participle of the verb. In this case, we used stopped for the verb stop. At the end of the sentence, you'll notice by April. By April shows the specific time in the future when this action will have happened. The next sentence says, by the time he graduates, he will have completed 5 years of study. In this sentence, by the time he graduates, or the specific time in the future, comes at the beginning of the sentence. So, by plus a time in the future can come at the end, or it can come at the beginning. By the time he graduates, he will have completed. Again, you see subject, will have, and the past participle of the verb, in this case, completed. By the time he graduates, he will have completed 5 years of study. The next sentence says, her arm will have fully healed by the summer. In this example, by the summer, the future specific time comes at the end. By this time in the future, her arm, that's the subject, will have healed, the past participle. Here, I put fully just to show how much it will have healed. I'm just adding an extra description. The last sentence says, by next month. So here we see by and the time at the beginning of the sentence. You, that's the subject, will have received, there's the past participle, your promotion. Again, by next month, you will have received your promotion. Let's move on. Now, let's talk about the negative form of the future perfect tense. Here are some examples. Let's take a look. The first sentence says, I will not have graduated from university by July. First, I want to point out that at the end, I have the specific time in the future, by July. Now, for the negative form, what I do is say subject and will not have. Then we put the past participle of the verb. I will not have graduated from university by July. The next sentence says, Ollie and Max will not have spoken. There it is again. Will not have, and then the past participle of speak, which is spoken. Before the plane leaves. Here, instead of the word by, we used before to show a specific time in the future. That's okay as well. The next sentence says, you will not have eaten dinner by 6 p.m. Here, again, we've used by 6 p.m. to show a time in the future. And again, you see, you will not have, and then the past participle of eat, which is eaten. The last sentence says, by noon, there's the time again, I will not have taken off to Japan. Taken is the past participle of take. Let's move on. Now, let's move on to how to form questions in the future perfect tense. The first sentence here says, you will have gone to work by 10 a.m. To turn this into a question, all we have to do is switch the order of the first two words. You will becomes will you. You'll notice that the rest of the question stays the same as the sentence. Will you have gone to work by 10 a.m.? You can answer by saying, yes, I will have, or no, I will have not. The next sentence says, she will have woken up by noon. Again, to turn this into a question, just switch the first two words. She will becomes will she. Will she have woken up by noon? Again, the rest of the sentence stays the same. Will she have woken up by noon? To reply, you can say, yes, she will have, or no, she will have not. Let's move on. Now, I'll talk about how to form WH questions in the future perfect tense. If you notice on the board, each of these questions begins with the WH word. Where, what, who, and when. Then, after each WH word comes the word will. Where will, what will, who will, and when will. So, let's take a look at the first question. Where will? Then you add the subject, in this case, you. And then have, and after that, the past participle of the verb. In this case, it's traveled. Where will you have traveled by December? I can answer by saying I will have traveled to Germany and Denmark. There are many possible answers here, and this is just an example. The next question says, what will they have done? Done is the past participle of do by the end of the evening. I can answer by saying they will have done their homework. The next question says, who will she have interviewed by 5 p.m.? Again, who will, the subject, have, and the past participle of the verb. I can answer this question by saying she will have interviewed the teachers by 5 p.m. And finally, when will they have started to learn? One way to answer this question is to say they will have started to learn in January. Let's move on. Let's start this checkup for the future perfect tense. Take a look at the first sentence. It says, we blank that book by tomorrow. The verb to use is read. Remember, in the future perfect tense, we start with the subject, and we have that here, we. Then we say will have and the past participle of the verb. So here we need to say will have. What is the past participle of read? The correct answer is read. They're spelled the same, but they are pronounced differently. We will have read that book by tomorrow. The next sentence says, she blank the video by bedtime. Here we have not, so I want you to try the negative form, and the verb to try is watch. In the negative form, we start with the subject, and instead of will have, we say will not have. She will not have. Then we need the past participle of the verb. In this case, it is watched. She will not have watched the video by bedtime. Now, find the mistake in the next sentence. Ryan will not have been to Cuba by summer. This is the negative form because we have will not have. That's correct, but we need the past participle of be. So we need to change it to been. Ryan will not have been to Cuba by summer. The last sentence says, I will have go to school by 8:30 a.m. Here we have the affirmative, will have. But, we forgot the past participle of go, which is gone. I will have gone to school by 8:30 a.m. Great job, everybody. Let's move on. Good job, guys. Now you have a better understanding of the future perfect tense. I want you to keep studying and practicing this tense. I know studying English can be difficult, but I believe in you and I will guide you through it. I'll see you in the next video.